The Vorth Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. These massive creatures stood 9 feet tall, with thick scales covering their bodies like armor. Sharp claws grew from their hands, each one as long as a human finger and twice as sharp as any knife. Their yellow eyes could see in complete darkness, and their powerful legs could crush bone with a single kick. Every other species in the galaxy feared them, and for good reason. Captain Zexter stood on the bridge of his massive warship called the Bloodfang. The ship was 3 miles long and covered in weapons that could destroy entire cities. Around him, hundreds of other Vorth warships moved through space like a pack of deadly hunters. They had detected strange signals coming from a small blue planet in a distant star system. The signals meant one thing to the Vorth: new prey. The Vorth homeworld of Kareth was a place of nightmares. Rain fell like acid from the sky. Plants grew with teeth that could bite through metal. Animals hunted other animals every second of every day. Only the strongest survived, and the Vorth were the strongest of all. They had climbed to the top of their world by being better killers than anything else that lived there. For 3,000 years, the Vorth had traveled from world to world. They would find species that had just learned to build cities and use simple technology. These species made perfect hunting targets. They were smart enough to be interesting prey, but weak enough to be easily caught. The Vorth would land on their worlds, hunt the strongest members of each species for sport, then take the rest as slaves. No species had ever fought back successfully. Most would surrender the moment they saw the Vorth ships. Smart ones would try to hide. Brave ones would fight for a few minutes before dying. It was always the same pattern, and the Vorth expected it to stay that way forever. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison was having a normal day aboard the UN's Defiance. The human ship was small compared to the massive cargo vessels that moved between Earth and the outer colonies. But it was the newest design in the human fleet. Jake and his crew of 60 people were patrolling the edge of human space, looking for asteroids that might threaten the mining colonies. Jake was drinking his morning coffee when the sensors started screaming. His communications officer, Linda Hayes, turned pale as she read the incoming data. "Sir, we have multiple contacts approaching from outside the system. The computer says there are over 200 ships." Jake nearly dropped his coffee cup. 200 ships was more than the entire human fleet combined. "How big are these ships, Linda?" Linda's voice shook as she answered. "The largest one is reading as 3 miles long, sir. The smallest ones are still bigger than our largest battleship." Jake felt his stomach drop. Humanity had built their small fleet for exploration and mining protection, not for war against massive alien forces. The biggest human warship carried maybe 50 weapons. These alien ships seemed to be nothing but weapons from front to back. "Send a priority message to Earth Defense Command," Jake ordered. "Tell them we have first contact with what appears to be a hostile alien force. Send all our sensor data and tell them these ships are heading straight for Earth." On Luna Base, Admiral Lisa Carter was reviewing reports from the outer colonies when the emergency message arrived. She read Jake Morrison's report 3 times before the reality sank in. Humanity was about to face something they had never prepared for: an alien invasion by creatures with technology far beyond human understanding. Lisa called an emergency meeting with Earth's military leaders. The numbers were not good. Humanity had 37 warships scattered across 6 star systems. Most were small patrol vessels like Jake's ship. The largest human warship was the UN's Liberty, and it was only half a mile long, against hundreds of 3-mile-long alien warships. Humanity's chances looked hopeless. How long until they reach Earth? Lisa asked her intelligence officer, Major Carl Davis. Carl checked his calculations twice. "At their current speed, approximately 18 hours, Admiral. 18 hours to prepare for a war humanity could not win." Lisa began sending orders to every human ship and colony in space. If they were going to lose, they would make the aliens pay for every inch of ground. Dr. Kevin Hughes worked at the Horizon Research Station, studying signals from deep space. When the Vorth fleet appeared, his equipment automatically began recording their communications. Kevin was one of the few humans who specialized in alien languages, though he had never expected to use his skills on real aliens. The Vorthok language was harsh and filled with growling sounds. But Kevin's computer was powerful enough to find patterns. Within 6 hours, he had translated enough to understand the basic meaning of their messages. What he learned made his blood run cold. The aliens called themselves Vorthok, which meant those who hunt in their language. They were not coming to trade or explore or make friends. They were coming to hunt humans for sport. Their communications talked about humans the way hunters on Earth might talk about deer or rabbits. The Vorthok saw humanity as nothing more than interesting prey. Kevin sent his translations to Admiral Carter immediately. The message was clear. Vorthok had done this hundreds of times before to other species. They would land on human worlds, hunt the strongest humans for entertainment, and take the rest as slaves. They expected humanity to surrender quickly, just like every other species had done. But the Vorthok had never met humans before. They did not know that humanity had spent their entire history fighting wars against each other. They did not understand that humans had climbed to the top of Earth's food chain not by being the strongest or fastest, but by being the smartest and the most stubborn. They had no idea that humans were the kind of species that would fight too. The last breath, when their families were threatened, Captain Zexler studied the scans of the human homeworld. The planet was covered in cities connected by roads and filled with billions of creatures. The technology readings showed that these humans had learned to split atoms and travel between stars. But their weapons were primitive compared to Vorthok. Technology. How many warriors do the humans have? Zexler asked his intelligence officer. Scans show approximately 50 million trained in warfare, Captain. However, their weapons appear to be chemically based projectiles and simple energy beams. Nothing that can penetrate our armor. Zexler clicked his claws together in satisfaction. 50 million warriors sounded impressive, but the Vorthok had conquered species with billions of soldiers. Superior technology and the terror of facing true predators always won in the end. These humans would be no different from any other prey. The Vorthok captain decided to begin with the outer colonies, as was traditional. They would hunt a few thousand humans on the smaller worlds to understand their behavior. Then they would move to the larger colonies and finally to the homeworld itself. By that time, the humans would be so terrified that they would probably surrender without a fight, as the massive alien fleet moved deeper into human space. Both species prepared for a conflict that would change everything, the Vorthok expected. Another easy hunt against prey that would flee or surrender quickly. The humans prepared to defend their homes and families against an enemy that seemed impossible to defeat. Neither species understood what the other was truly capable of. The Vorthok had never faced a species that refused to give up. Humans had never fought an enemy with such overwhelming technological superiority. Both were about to learn lessons that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. The first battle was only hours away. The mining colony of New Perth sat on a small moon orbiting a gas giant. 3,000 humans lived there, working the deep mines that provided rare metals for Earth's growing space program. The colony had been peaceful for 20 years, with families raising children and building a new life far from Earth. That peaceful life was about to end, Captain. Zexler chose New Perth for his first attack because it looked like easy prey. The colony had no military base and only basic defensive systems meant to protect against space rocks, not warships. Intelligence reports showed that most of the colonists were miners, engineers, and their families. Perfect targets for a quick hunt that would teach these humans to fear the Vorthok. Ryan Bell had been the colony administrator for 8 years. He was a quiet man who preferred solving problems with paperwork rather than violence. But when the massive alien ships appeared in the sky above New Perth, Ryan made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. Instead of surrendering, he activated the colony's emergency protocols and ordered every human to fight. "These aliens are not here to negotiate," Ryan announced over the colony's communication system. "They are here to hunt us for sport. If we surrender, they will kill our families and take our children as slaves. We have one choice. We fight, or we all die." The colonists responded in ways that shocked the watching Vorthok. Instead of panicking or trying to flee, the humans began organizing themselves for war. Miners grabbed their industrial tools and turned them into weapons. Engineers started building barricades and traps. Even the children helped by carrying supplies and messages. Between the adult fighters, Sergeant Amy Thompson had been the colony's only security officer before the attack. She was a former Earth Marine who had come to New Perth for a quiet retirement. When the aliens landed, Amy found herself commanding 3,000 civilians who had no military training but plenty of determination to protect their homes. "Listen up, people," Amy told the gathered colonists. "These aliens are bigger and stronger than us. Their weapons are better than ours. But we have advantages they don't know about. We know every tunnel, every building, every inch of this colony. We're going to use that knowledge to make them pay for every step they take." The first Vorth landing ships touched down near the colony's main entrance. 50 alien warriors stepped out, each one 9 feet tall and covered in natural armor. Their yellow eyes scanned the human settlement, looking for signs of the quick surrender they expected. Instead, they found empty streets and silent buildings. Captain Zexter led the assault personally. In 3,000 years of conquests, no prey species had ever made the Vorth work hard for victory. Most species would send representatives to surrender before the first shot was fired. The silence from the human colony was unusual, but Zextar assumed they were simply too scared to speak. The Vorth warriors moved through the colony streets in hunting formation, the same tactic they had used successfully on hundreds of worlds. They expected frightened humans to come running out of buildings, begging for mercy. Instead, the first thing they encountered was an explosion that destroyed the lead warrior and damaged 3 others. Danny Parker was 16 years old and had lived on New Perth his entire life. His parents worked in the deep mines, and Danny knew every maintenance tunnel in the colony. When the aliens entered the main street, Danny triggered the mining charges that Amy Thompson had positioned under the road. The explosion sent chunks of rock and metal flying through the alien formation. "First blood to the humans," Amy whispered into her radio as she watched the aliens scatter for cover. "Remember, people, they bleed just like anything else." The Vorth warriors were confused and angry. Their prey was supposed to run, not fight back with explosives. Captain Zexter ordered his warriors to spread out and search the buildings, expecting to find humans hiding in fear. Instead, they found carefully prepared ambush positions and more explosives. Maria Santos worked as a construction foreman before the attack. She knew how to operate the big industrial machines that built new sections of the colony. When 3 Vorth warriors broke into the construction bay, Maria was waiting for them with a plasma cutter designed to slice through metal beams. The tool worked just as well on alien armor. The battle that was supposed to last minutes stretched into hours. Every building in the colony became a fortress. Every hallway became a trap. The humans used industrial tools as weapons, turning mining lasers into rifles and construction equipment into tanks. They fought with a desperation and creativity that the Vorth had never encountered. Tommy Rodriguez was a mine engineer who understood explosives better than anyone else on New Perth. He rigged the colony's fuel depot to explode when the aliens tried to capture it. The explosion was so massive that it destroyed a city block and took out 12 Vorth warriors. Tommy died in the blast, but his sacrifice inspired the other colonists to fight even harder. Captain Zexter found himself in a battle unlike any he had ever experienced. His superior technology and physical strength meant nothing against enemies who refused to fight fair. The humans used hit-and-run tactics, striking from unexpected angles and disappearing before the Vorth could respond. They turned their own colony into a maze of death traps. The worst shock came when the Vorth realized that wounded humans kept fighting. On every other world, injured prey would surrender or hide until they died. Human fighters with broken bones and bleeding wounds continued attacking until their bodies finally gave out. It was behavior that made no sense to predators who had never faced serious resistance. Sarah Mitchell was a doctor who had never held a weapon before the attack. When Vorth warriors broke into the medical center where she was treating wounded colonists, Sarah grabbed a surgical laser and fought them off. She died protecting her patients, but not before killing 2 aliens and giving the wounded humans time to escape. After 6 hours of fighting, Captain Zexter made the unthinkable decision to retreat. Half of his warriors were dead or wounded. The human colony was in ruins, but the surviving humans were still fighting. Worse yet, they had managed to capture 3 Vorthok warriors alive. In 3,000 years of conquest, no prey species had ever taken Vorthok prisoners. As the alien ships lifted off from New Perth, the surviving humans gathered in the ruins of their colony. Of the 3,000 colonists, fewer than 800 were still alive. But they had done something no other species in the galaxy had ever accomplished. They had made the Vorthok retreat. Amy Thompson stood in the wreckage of the colony's main square, holding a Vorthok weapon she had taken from a dead alien warrior. Around her, wounded humans tended to their injuries and counted their dead. They had lost friends and family members, but they had also won something precious. They had won respect, sent a message to Earth. Amy told the colony's surviving communications. "Officer, tell them the aliens can be hurt. Tell them the aliens can die. Tell them we took prisoners, and we're going to learn everything we can about their technology and tactics." The message from New Perth reached Earth just as other colonies across human space were reporting similar attacks. But instead of reports of quick defeats, the messages told stories of desperate resistance and alien casualties. The pattern was the same everywhere. The Vorthok expected easy victories and instead found humans who refused to give up. Admiral Lisa Carter read the reports. With growing amazement, the alien technology was superior, just as expected. The alien warriors were physically stronger than humans, just as feared. But the humans were winning battles through sheer determination and tactical creativity. They were using the enemy's expectations against them, turning perceived weaknesses into unexpected strengths. Captain Zexler reported his losses to the Vorthok High Command with shame and confusion. The humans had fought like no prey species in recorded history. They used unconventional tactics, refused to surrender when beaten, and seemed to become more dangerous when cornered. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Vorthok faced an enemy that might actually be a threat. The first battle was over, but both species knew that the real war was just beginning. News of the New Perth battle spread through human space faster than the Vorthok fleet could move between targets. Every human colony, every space station, and every ship received the same message. The aliens could be fought. The aliens could be hurt. The aliens could die. This news changed everything for humanity. On Earth, General Patrick Stone activated emergency protocols that had been planned for decades but never used. Operation Howling Wolf was humanity's plan for fighting an enemy with superior technology. The plan was simple. Turn every human into a soldier. Turn every building into a fortress. Turn every piece of equipment into a weapon. Weapons that had been stored in secret locations for 50 years were distributed to civilian populations. Factories that made cars and computers were converted to produce ammunition and armor. Schools became training centers where children learned to fight alongside their parents. In 72 hours, Earth transformed from a peaceful world into a military base with 8 billion soldiers. Commander Nicole Rodriguez had spent 10 years hauling cargo between Earth and the outer colonies aboard her ship, the Pacific Star. Her crew of 12 people knew more about fixing broken engines than fighting battles. When the call came for all ships to join the defense fleet, Nicole made a decision that surprised even her own crew. "We're not running," Nicole announced to her crew. "We're going to fight these alien bastards with everything we have." The Pacific Star was not built for war. It was a simple cargo hauler with engines designed for efficiency, not speed. But Nicole and her crew began welding steel plates to the hull for armor. They mounted mining lasers on rotating platforms for weapons. They filled the cargo holds with spare parts and emergency supplies. In 3 days, they turned a peaceful merchant ship into an improvised warship. Nicole was not alone. Across human space, thousands of civilian ships were being converted for war. Passenger liners became troop transports. Mining vessels became mobile weapons platforms. Even small personal shuttles were fitted with whatever weapons their owners could find. The human fleet grew from 37 military ships to over 5,000 armed vessels in less than a week. The Vorthok made Their second major attack against the agricultural world of Green Valley, the planet had no military presence and was home to farming families who grew food for other human colonies. Captain Zexter chose Green Valley because he believed farmers would be easier to defeat than the miners of New Perth. He was about to learn another hard lesson about humanity. Carlos Martinez had fought in the Mars Colony Wars 20 years earlier. Before retiring to Green Valley with his wife and 3 children, Carlos knew how to use weapons and tactics, but more importantly, he knew how to organize people for war. When the Vorth ships appeared in the sky, Carlos was ready. "Listen to me, neighbors," Carlos called out at the emergency meeting in the town hall. "These aliens think we're just farmers who will run at the first sign of trouble. They're about to learn that farmers know how to fight for what's theirs." The Martinez family and their neighbors had advantages the aliens did not expect. Knew every field, every barn, every hidden path on their world. They had farming equipment that could be turned into weapons. Most importantly, they had the stubborn determination of people fighting to protect their homes and families. When the Vorth warriors landed in the main farming valley, they found what appeared to be an empty landscape. The humans had evacuated the visible settlements and seemed to have fled in panic, exactly as expected. Captain Zextar ordered his warriors to spread out and hunt down the hiding farmers. It was a fatal mistake. The farm fields of Green Valley became a deadly maze. What looked like empty farmland was actually filled with hidden trenches, buried explosives, and concealed fighting positions. The farmers had turned their knowledge of the land into a tactical advantage that negated the aliens' superior technology. Susan Martinez, Carlos's wife, had been a military engineer before becoming a farmer. She designed a network of tunnels connecting the farm buildings that allowed the humans to move unseen while the aliens searched empty structures above ground. The Vorth found themselves chasing ghosts through a landscape that seemed to change around them. The first major ambush happened when 50 Vorth warriors entered what appeared to be an abandoned wheat field. Hidden beneath the grain, 30 human farmers waited with hunting rifles, farm tools converted to weapons, and homemade explosives. The aliens walked into a killing zone where their superior armor meant nothing against concentrated fire from multiple directions. Billy Martinez was only 14 years old, but he had grown up hunting on Green Valley and knew every hiding spot in the valley. When 3 Vorth warriors cornered a group of younger children, Billy used his hunting rifle to kill 2 of the aliens and drive off the third. His precise shooting from a concealed position showed the aliens that even human children could be deadly opponents. The battle for Green Valley lasted 3 days. The Vorth had overwhelming firepower, but they could not use it effectively against enemies they could not find. Every time they thought they had cornered the humans, their prey would disappear through hidden tunnels or secret paths. Every time they tried to rest, humans would attack from unexpected directions. Captain Zexter became increasingly frustrated as his casualties mounted. The humans were using tactics that made no sense to a species that had always relied on direct confrontation. They attacked and then vanished. They used the terrain as a weapon. They turned every farm building into a fortress and every field into a battlefield. The worst moment came when the humans captured an entire Vorth patrol unit. The aliens had followed what they thought was a retreating group of farmers into a barn only to find themselves trapped in a structure that had been converted into a massive cage. The humans had used their farming knowledge to create a trap that the technology-focused aliens never saw coming, as news of the Green Valley resistance reached other human colonies. Something remarkable happened. Instead of preparing to surrender, human settlements across the galaxy began organizing their own defenses. The success at New Perth and Green Valley had shown that the seemingly invincible aliens could be beaten by ordinary humans using determination and creativity. On the industrial world of New Detroit, factory workers began mass-producing weapons using techniques learned from studying captured Vorth technology. The humans could not match alien materials, but they could produce weapons in quantities the Vorth had never imagined. For every Vorth energy rifle, the humans built 100 chemical projectile weapons, Commander Steve Walsh commanded the human fleet that was rapidly assembling to defend Earth. His mixed force of military vessels and converted civilian ships should have been no match for the Vorth fleet. But Steve understood something the aliens did not. Humans had spent their entire history fighting wars against other humans. And those wars had taught them lessons the Vorth had never learned. We're not going to fight them ship to ship like they expect, Steve told his mixed fleet of military officers and civilian captains. We're going to swarm them like wolves taking down a bigger predator. We hit them from all directions, we don't give them time to think, and we make them pay for every shot they fire. The Vorth fleet found itself facing something it had never encountered in 3,000 years of conquest. Instead of a few dozen ships fighting in organized formations, they faced thousands of vessels attacking in coordinated chaos. The humans used their numerical advantage to overwhelm alien targeting systems and create confusion in the enemy ranks. Captain Zixer received reports from across human space that filled him with growing dread. Every world the Vorth attacked was fighting back. Every human colony was producing weapons and training soldiers. Every battle was costing the aliens more casualties than they had taken in entire previous wars. The humans were not just fighting back. They were learning from each battle and sharing that knowledge with other human settlements. They adapted their tactics faster than the Vorth could respond. They turned every defeat into a lesson and every victory into inspiration for other battles. For the first time in Vorth history, their warriors were requesting permission to retreat instead of demanding to continue the hunt. The galaxy's apex predators were learning what it meant to be afraid. The turning point came when humanity captured intact Vorth technology during the desperate defense of Europa Station. The mining facility orbited Jupiter and should have been an easy target for the alien fleet. Instead, it became the place where humans learned they could not only fight the Vorth, but also beat them at their own technological game. Chief Engineer Sam Roberts had worked on Europa Station for 15 years, maintaining the complex machinery that extracted rare gases from Jupiter's atmosphere. When the Vorth attack began, Sam found himself studying alien weapons that had been recovered from previous battles. What he discovered changed the course of the war. These alien weapons are powerful, but they're not magic, Sam explained to his engineering team as they examined a captured Vorth energy rifle. The technology is advanced, but the principles are the same as our own weapons. We can understand this, we can copy this, we can improve this. Sam's team worked for 3 straight days without sleep, taking apart alien weapons piece by piece. They found that Vorth technology was built for power and durability, but not for mass production. Each alien weapon was handcrafted by skilled artisans, making them expensive and time-consuming to build. Human manufacturing was designed for speed and quantity, not perfection. Within 2 weeks, human factories were producing hybrid weapons that combined Vorth power systems with human manufacturing techniques. The new weapons were not as elegant as the alien originals, but they worked just as well and could be built 100 times faster. For every weapon the Vorth lost, humans could build 50 replacements. Lieutenant Colonel Ashley Bennett commanded the first human counterattack using the new hybrid technology. Her ship, the Retribution, had been a passenger liner before the war began. Now it carried 300 volunteers, armed with weapons that could match Vorth firepower. Ashley's mixed crew of former soldiers and civilian fighters had trained together for only 3 weeks, but they shared something the aliens could not understand. We're not just fighting for territory or resources, Ashley told her crew as they prepared for their first mission. We're fighting for our families, our children, and our future. These aliens see us as prey to be hunted. We're going to show them what happens when the prey fights back. The Retribution struck at a Vorth supply convoy moving between star systems. The aliens expected human ships to attack directly, using the same frontal assault tactics that most species employed. Instead, Ashley used hit-and-run tactics that her grandfather had learned fighting in Earth's ancient wars. The human ship appeared without warning, fired a devastating volley at the convoy's escorts, and vanished before the Vorth could respond. Effectively, the aliens turned to pursue, only to find the humans attacking from a different direction. By the time the battle ended, 3 Vorthok supply ships had been destroyed, and the escorts were badly damaged. Dr. Rachel Williams made the discovery that would doom the Vorth Empire. As a xenobiologist studying captured alien prisoners, Rachel found the crucial weakness that 3,000 years of easy victories had bred into the alien species. The Vorthok had become too successful for their own good. Vorthok have never faced serious resistance, Rachel explained to the human military command. Their bodies are built for overwhelming prey quickly, not for surviving prolonged fights. They have superior strength and armor, but they have almost no pain tolerance and very poor injury recovery compared to humans. Rachel's research showed that a Vorthok warrior with injuries that would barely slow down a human soldier would be completely incapacitated. The aliens had evolved as apex predators who killed quickly and efficiently, but they had never developed the ability to fight while wounded. Humans, who had evolved as both predators and prey, could continue fighting with injuries that would disable a Vorthok. The battle for the Titan mining complex became legendary throughout human space. The complex was built inside a massive asteroid and was considered impossible to defend against a determined attack. When 500 Vorthok warriors assaulted the facility, they expected to overwhelm the 100 human defenders within minutes. They had not counted on Corporal Bobby Chen. Bobby Chen had been a security guard at the mining complex for 3 years. He was a quiet man who preferred reading books to fighting, but when the aliens broke through the main defense line, Bobby found himself as the last barrier between the Vorthok and the civilian workers hiding in the complex's deep tunnels, armed with nothing but a damaged pulse rifle and his determination to protect innocent people. Bobby held a narrow corridor against waves of alien attackers. For 2 hours, he fought alone against impossible odds. Every time the Vorthok thought they had killed him, Bobby would appear again, firing from a new position and forcing them back. Bobby's last transmission became famous across human space. Command, this is Bobby Chen at Defense Point 7. Hit bad, but I'm still fighting. These aliens bleed just like everything else. Tell my mom I'm sorry I won't make it home for dinner. The video recordings of Bobby's final stand spread through human networks faster than any news had ever traveled. Ordinary humans saw one of their own holding off an entire alien assault, forced through nothing but courage and determination. The psychological impact was enormous. If Bobby Chen could fight 500 aliens and nearly win, then any human could be a hero. Captain Zexter found his mighty fleet scattered across human space, no longer hunting but desperately trying to survive. Everywhere the Vorthok turned, humans appeared like wolves stalking wounded prey. The psychological reversal was devastating. For 3,000 years, the Vorthok had been the hunters. Now they were learning what it felt like to be hunted. Attacks came without warning and from unexpected directions. Human ships would appear from empty space, strike hard at Vorthok vessels, and disappear before the aliens could mount an effective response. The humans used tactics that made no sense to a species accustomed to direct confrontation. They hit supply lines, communications, relays, and isolated ships rather than seeking glorious battle. Commander Tony Martinez led one of the most successful human raiding groups. His small fleet of converted civilian ships had been destroyed and rebuilt so many times that no 2 vessels looked alike. Tony's crews were a mixture of former criminals, discharged soldiers, and civilian volunteers who shared only one thing in common. They all hated the Vorthok with a passion that burned like a star. "We don't fight fair," Tony told new recruits, joining his raiding fleet. "Fair fights are for sports games and honor duels. This is war, and in war, you use every advantage you can find. The aliens are stronger than us individually, so we gang up on them. They have better armor, so we hit them where they're weak. They expect honorable combat, so we cheat." The Vorthok military command began receiving reports that shattered their confidence. Human technology was improving faster than alien scientists had thought possible. Human tactics were evolving with each battle. Worst of all, human morale was actually increasing as the war continued. Every Vorthok victory seemed to make the humans fight harder rather than discouraging them. For the first time in their recorded history, Vorth warriors were requesting transfers away from combat zones. The galaxy's apex predators were developing something they had never experienced before: fear. They were afraid of an enemy that refused to act like prey, learned from every defeat, and that seemed to become more dangerous with each passing. The reports reaching the Vorth homeworld painted a picture that no alien leader wanted to believe. The humans were not just resisting conquest, they were winning. Ship by ship, battle by battle, world by world, the supposedly inferior prey species was defeating the galaxy's greatest predators. Captain Zexter stared at the tactical displays, showing human fleet movements, and realized something that chilled his warrior heart. The humans were no longer defending their territory. They were hunting Vorth ships with the same relentless determination that his species had once used against helpless prey. The hunt had been reversed, and the Vorth were learning what it meant to be the hunted. The final battle began at the edge of the Sol system, where the broken remnants of the once mighty Vorth fleet made their last desperate stand. Captain Zexter, his confidence destroyed and his warriors demoralized, faced the approaching human armada with the growing realization that his species had awakened something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Admiral Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of the UN's Liberty, watching as thousands of human ships moved into attack formation. Her fleet was a strange mixture of military vessels, converted cargo haulers, mining ships fitted with weapons, and civilian craft that had volunteered for the final assault. They looked nothing like a proper military force, but Lisa knew they were the most dangerous fleet humanity had ever assembled. All ships, this is Admiral Carter, Lisa, broadcast to the massive human fleet. For months, these aliens have hunted our people, destroyed our colonies, and murdered our families. Today, we show them what happens when you threaten humanity. Today, we show the galaxy that Earth's children are not prey. The Vorth fleet still looked impressive to outside observers. Their ships were larger, their weapons more powerful, and their armor thicker than anything humanity possessed. Appearance meant nothing in a fight where morale had already been decided. The Vorth warriors knew they were facing an enemy that had defeated them in every encounter for the past 6 months. Captain Zexter tried to rally his remaining warriors as the human fleet approached. "We are Vorth," he growled into his communications system. "We've ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. We will not be defeated by primitive prey animals." But even as he spoke the words, Zexter could see the doubt in his warriors' eyes. They had watched their supposedly invincible fleet be slowly destroyed by an enemy that refused to fight according to the rules. The humans used swarm tactics, hit-and-run attacks, and psychological warfare that made no sense to predators, who had always relied on overwhelming force. The battle began with the humans doing exactly what the Vorth expected them not to do. Instead of attacking in organized formations, thousands of human ships came at the alien fleet from every direction at once. The Vorth targeting systems, designed to track a few dozen enemy vessels, were overwhelmed by the sheer number of attackers. Commander Tony Martinez led the first wave of attack ships toward the Vorth flagship. His converted cargo hauler, the New Hope, had been destroyed and rebuilt so many times that it was held together by welding scars and determination. Tony's crew of former criminals and civilian volunteers shared a single goal. They wanted to personally kill the alien captain who had started this war. "Remember, people," Tony announced to his crew as they approached the massive Vorth ship, "we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to win, period. Hit them hard, hit them fast, and make them pay for every human life they've taken." The New Hope and 50 other human ships swarmed around the Vorth flagship like angry wasps attacking a giant. Their weapons could not penetrate the alien ship's heavy armor in direct combat, but they were not fighting directly. They targeted sensor arrays, weapon mounts, and engine systems with surgical precision. Admiral Lisa Carter watched the battle unfold from her command center and felt a grim satisfaction. The humans were fighting like a pack of wolves bringing down a larger predator. Each individual ship was weaker than the alien vessels, but together they created a coordinated assault that the Vorth could not counter effectively. The turning point came when boarding shuttles began attaching to the Vorth ships. The aliens, had never faced enemies who would attempt to board their vessels during space combat. Most species tried to destroy enemy ships from a safe distance. Humans, with their pack-hunting instincts, wanted to get close enough to look their enemies in the eyes while they killed them. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison, the same officer who had first detected the Vorth fleet months earlier, led the boarding assault on Captain Zexther's flagship. Jake's team of 30 Marines had trained for close-quarters combat using captured alien weapons and knowledge gained from studying Vorth prisoners. The fighting inside the alien ship was brutal and desperate. The Vorth warriors were larger and stronger than the humans, but they found themselves fighting in narrow corridors where their size became a disadvantage. The humans used teamwork and tactics that the individually focused aliens could not match effectively. "They're not used to fighting in groups," Jake shouted to his team as they advanced through the ship's corridors. "They're individual hunters, not pack fighters. Stick together, watch each other's backs, and make them face multiple enemies at once." The close-quarters battle showcased the fundamental difference between the two species. The Vorth were powerful individual warriors who expected to dominate their enemies through superior strength and weapons. The humans fought as a unified organism, with each member willing to sacrifice themselves for the group's survival. Sergeant Amy Thompson, a security officer who had organized the defense of New Perth, found herself face-to-face with Captain Zexther in the alien ship's command center. The massive Vorth captain stood 9 feet tall and carried weapons that could have destroyed a small building. Amy was 5 feet 6 inches tall and carried a rifle she had built herself from salvaged alien technology. "You are the prey," Zexther snarled as he raised his weapons. "I am the predator. This is the natural order." Amy smiled as she aimed her rifle at the alien captain's head. The natural order just changed. The single shot that killed Captain Zexther echoed throughout the Vorth fleet. Their supreme commander, the warrior who had led their species to victory for decades, had been killed by a human security guard using improvised weapons. The psychological impact was devastating. Across the battlefield, Vorth warriors began surrendering in groups. For 3,000 years, their species had defined itself through dominance and the fear they inspired in other races. With their greatest leader dead and their fleet broken, they no longer knew who they were or what they were fighting for. The surrender of the Vorth fleet marked more than the end of a military campaign. It represented the collapse of the galaxy's oldest empire and the rise of a new power that no one had expected. Humanity had not just defeated the apex predators of the galaxy, they had replaced them. Dr. Kevin Hughes, the xenobiologist who had first translated Vorth communications, found himself studying the aftermath of humanity's victory. The galaxy's power structure had been completely overturned. Species that had lived in fear of the Vorth for millennia were suddenly free, and they were all looking toward Earth to see what humanity would do with their newfound dominance. The interesting thing Kevin explained to Admiral Carter during the post-war analysis is that we didn't just beat them militarily, we broke them psychologically. For 3,000 years, they believed they were the ultimate predators, and that belief was shattered. Their entire civilization collapsed with it. 6 months after the final battle, Ambassador Helen Foster sat in a conference room on Earth across from the surviving Vorth leadership. The once mighty predators looked broken and defeated, their yellow eyes dim with the realization that their age of dominance was over. Helen's job was to negotiate not conquest, but coexistence. "We could destroy your remaining worlds," Helen said quietly to the Vorth delegation. "We could hunt your species to extinction the way you hunted others, but that's not who we are. Humanity doesn't fight because we enjoy killing. We fight to protect what we love." The peace negotiations established humanity as the galaxy's new dominant species, but with a difference that no previous apex predator had ever shown. Instead of ruling through fear and domination, humans offered protection to weaker species and cooperation with stronger ones. They had learned the galaxy's greatest lesson about power. The Vorth Empire was ended, but its former subjects were not enslaved or destroyed. They were given the chance to rebuild their civilization under human protection. The galaxy had a new apex predator, But this one understood that true strength came not from hunting prey, but from protecting the pack. Earth's children had spread across the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same.